After years away, I came home and found my 12-year-old daughter living like a maid in the house I paid for, while my mother-in-law controlled everything. My child was too afraid to even call me mom. That night, I realized this wasn't love, it was control. But before I begin, please like and subscribe to the channel. And we'd love to hear which part of the world are you joining us from. Let us know. Now, let's dive into today's story. Hollow Creek, Arkansas, a small lake town where everyone knows each other's business, and silence is treated like loyalty. The drive from Oklahoma City took 9 hours, but Tamsin Rowe felt every minute of it. Her hands ached from gripping the steering wheel. The highway stretched out endlessly, passing through small towns that blurred together, gas stations with flickering neon signs, and fields that rolled into nothing. She had made this trip dozens of times over the past 6 years, each visit shorter than the last, each departure easier to justify. The radio played country songs she didn't recognize. She turned it off somewhere past Little Rock. The silence felt heavier. Tamsin worked as a commercial safety coordinator for a construction firm that operated across 3 states. The job required travel, long hours, and a willingness to be away from home more often than not. The pay was good, better than good. It allowed her to keep the house, pay off the mortgage early, and send money back for anything Maria needed. That was the arrangement she had made with herself after Elliot died. 6 years ago, her husband had been driving home from a job site when a semi-truck crossed the median. The impact killed him instantly. The funeral was small. The grief was not. Mireya had been 6 years old, too young to understand permanence, too old to forget. Brenda Harlan, Elliot's mother, had arrived at the house 3 days after the funeral with 2 suitcases and a casserole. She said she would stay, just until things settled. Tamsin had been too numb to argue, too exhausted to think past the next hour. Brenda cooked meals, handled phone calls, picked Maria up from school. She was efficient, reliable, present. When the job offer came 4 months later, Tamsin hesitated for exactly 1 night. Then she accepted. She told herself it was temporary, that she would figure out a better arrangement once she adjusted, once the grief became manageable. 6 years passed. Now, as Tamsin turned onto the narrow road that led to Lake Hollow, she noticed how the trees had grown thicker. The road felt smaller than she remembered. The houses along the lake sat quiet and still, their porches empty in the late afternoon light. November had stripped the leaves from most of the trees, leaving bare branches that clawed at the gray sky. Her house appeared around the final bend. White siding, blue shutters, a small porch with 2 rocking chairs that had been there since Elliot built them. The sight of it should have felt like coming home. Instead, it felt like approaching something that no longer belonged to her. Tamsin parked in the driveway and sat for a moment. The engine ticked as it cooled. She stared at the front door. Something was different. The wreath that used to hang there was gone. In its place was a plain wooden sign with black letters. She couldn't read it from the car. Tamsin grabbed her overnight bag from the passenger seat and walked up the porch steps. The wood creaked under her weight. She had repaired these steps herself 2 summers ago, before the last big storm. The memory felt distant, like something that had happened to someone else. The sign by the door read, "Guests must knock." She stood there, key in hand, staring at the words. This was her house, her name on the deed, her money that paid the utilities, the property taxes, the insurance. She had never been a guest here. Tamsin unlocked the door and stepped inside. The living room was wrong. The couch had been moved to the opposite wall. The coffee table was gone. In its place was a small wooden bench with a basket underneath labeled shoes. The photos that used to line the mantel, pictures of her and Elliot, their wedding, vacations they had taken before Maria was born, were missing. The walls were bare except for 2 framed prints of Bible verses. The air smelled different. Not bad, just unfamiliar, like someone else's home. Tamsin heard water running in the kitchen. She set her bag down carefully and walked toward the sound. Maria stood at the sink, washing a pan. Her back was to the door. She wore a plain gray sweatshirt that was too big for her and jeans that looked new. Her hair, dark like Elliot's, was pulled back in a tight ponytail. She scrubbed the pan methodically, even though it already looked clean. "Myri," Tamsin said. The girl went still. The water kept running. Slowly, Maria turned around. Her face was different, older, thinner. She looked at Tamsin with an expression that took a moment to identify. Fear. Not surprise. Not confusion. Fear. "You're not scheduled," Maria said quietly. The words hit like cold water. Tamsin opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. She stared at her daughter, this 12-year-old girl who looked at her like an unexpected inspector. "I know," Tamsin finally said. "I wanted to surprise you." Mireya didn't smile. She turned off the water and dried her hands on a towel that hung perfectly straight on a hook. Every movement was precise, practiced. "Grandma doesn't like surprises," Maria said. Footsteps sounded from the hallway. Brenda appeared, wearing a cardigan and slacks, her gray hair styled neatly. She looked exactly as she always did. Calm, composed, in control. "Tamsin," Brenda said. No warmth in the word, just acknowledgement. "You should have called ahead." "I live here," Tamsin said. Disruptions upset Mireya's routine. Brenda moved into the kitchen and placed a hand on Mireya's shoulder. The girl straightened immediately. "She has schoolwork to finish. You understand." Tamsin watched the way Mireya glanced at Brenda before moving, the way she waited for permission before leaving the room, the way she kept her eyes down. "Can I talk to my daughter?" Tamsin asked. "Of course." Brenda smiled. "After dinner. We eat at 6. Mireya needs to set the table now." Mireya moved past Tamsin without looking at her. She opened a cabinet and pulled out 3 plates, 3 forks, 3 knives. She arranged them on the table with careful precision, measuring the distance between each setting with her fingers. Tamsin stood in the doorway and watched. Brenda started pulling ingredients from the refrigerator. "You'll stay the night, I assume?" "I'll stay as long as I need to. The guest room is made up. I keep it ready." Brenda didn't look up from the cutting board. "Mireya, napkins." The girl retrieved napkins from a drawer and folded them into triangles, placing one beside each plate. "Good," Brenda said. "Now finish your vocabulary homework before dinner." Mireya left the kitchen without a word. Tamsin heard her footsteps on the stairs, then the soft click of a door closing. "She's grown," Tamsin said. "Children do that." Brenda chopped carrots with steady, even strokes, especially when they have structure. Tamsin crossed her arms. "Where are the pictures?" "What pictures?" "The ones from the mantel. My wedding photos. The family pictures. I stored them." Brenda scraped the carrots into a pot. Mireya found them upsetting. It's better for children to focus on the present, not dwell on what's gone. Elliot is her father. Elliot is dead. Brenda's voice didn't change. Reminders don't help anyone heal. They just keep wounds open. Tamsin felt something cold settle in her chest. She looked around the kitchen. Everything was organized. Everything was clean. Everything was wrong. "I'm going to check on Mireya," she said. "Let her work." Interruptions break concentration. Tamsin left the kitchen anyway. She climbed the stairs, each step creaking under her weight. The hallway looked the same. Same carpet, same paint, but the pictures that used to hang here were gone too. Mireya's bedroom door was closed. Tamsin knocked softly. "Come in." The room was smaller than Tamsin remembered. The bed was made with hospital corners. The desk was empty except for a single textbook and a notebook. No posters on the walls. No clutter. No personality. Mireya sat at the desk, writing in the notebook. She didn't look up. "Hey," Tamsin said. "Can we talk?" I have homework. Just for a minute. Maria set down her pencil. She kept her hands flat on the desk. Okay. Tamsin sat on the edge of the bed. The mattress was firm. How's school? Fine. What are you studying? Vocabulary, history, math. Do you like your teachers? They're fine. The answers came automatically, rehearsed. Maria stared at the wall behind Tamsin, not quite meeting her eyes. Myri, Tamsin said gently, look at me. The girl turned her head slowly. Her face was blank. Are you okay? Yes. You can tell me if something's wrong. Nothing's wrong. Tamsin wanted to reach out, to pull her daughter close, to promise that everything would be different. But Maria sat stiff and distant, like a stranger being polite to an unwelcome visitor. I miss you, Tamsin said. Maria blinked. You're busy. Grandma explained. Explained what? That you have important work. That you chose your job. Maria's voice stayed flat. She said adults make choices and children have to accept them. The words felt rehearsed. Tamsin recognized Brenda's phrasing, her tone. That's not. Tamsin stopped. She couldn't finish the sentence. Because wasn't it true? Hadn't she chosen this? Chosen to leave, chosen to stay away, chosen to send money instead of showing up? Can I go back to my homework? Maria asked. Tamsin stood slowly. Yeah, I'll see you at dinner. Okay. Tamsin left the room and closed the door behind her. She stood in the hallway for a long moment, listening to the quiet house. Downstairs, pots clanged softly. Water ran. Everything sounded normal. She walked to the end of the hall and opened the door to what used to be her bedroom. The room she had shared with Elliot. The room she had left empty when she took the job, unable to sleep there without him. The bed was different. New comforter, new pillows. Brenda's reading glasses sat on the nightstand. Brenda had moved into the master bedroom. Tamsin closed the door carefully. She walked back downstairs and found the guest room off the kitchen. It was small but clean. A twin bed, a dresser, a lamp. She set her bag on the bed and sat down. Through the thin wall, she heard Brenda humming. Dinner was quiet. They sat at the table with plates of chicken, rice, and vegetables. Brenda said grace. Maria kept her hands folded until Brenda finished. Then they ate. Maria, Brenda said. Elbows. The girl adjusted her arms immediately. Tamsin tried to make conversation. She asked about Maria's classes, her friends, what she liked to do. The answers were short. Yes. No. Fine. Nothing. Maria glanced at Brenda before responding to each question. She's tired, Brenda said. It's been a long day. After dinner, Maria stood and began clearing plates. Tamsin started to help, but Brenda waved her off. She has her routine. Best not to interfere. Tamsin watched as Maria scraped plates, rinsed them, loaded the dishwasher. Every movement was efficient, automatic. When she finished, she wiped down the counters and hung the towel back on its hook. Homework finished? Brenda asked. Yes, ma'am. Then you may have 30 minutes of free time before bed. Thank you. Maria left the kitchen. Tamsin stood. I'm going to spend time with her. She prefers quiet time alone, Brenda said. Overstimulation before bed causes problems. I haven't seen her in 2 months. Exactly. Your presence is disruptive. Tamsin felt heat rise in her chest. She's my daughter. Then perhaps you should have considered that before building a life that doesn't include her. The words landed with precision. Brenda's face remained pleasant, almost kind. That made it worse. Tamsin went to find Maria anyway. She checked the girl's bedroom, but it was empty. She checked the living room, the bathroom. Finally, she heard a sound from downstairs. The basement door was open. A dim light glowed from below. Tamsin descended the stairs carefully. The basement was unfinished, with concrete floors and exposed beams. She found Maria in the laundry room, sitting on a narrow cot pushed against the wall. "What are you doing down here?" Tamsin asked. "This is my room now." "What happened to your bedroom upstairs?" Grandma needed space for storage. Tamsin looked around. The cot had a thin pillow and a single blanket. There was no nightstand, no lamp, nothing personal. A backpack sat on the floor beside the cot. "You sleep down here?" "It's fine. I have everything I need." "Myri, this is a laundry room." "I don't mind." Maria pulled the blanket up to her chin. "I should sleep now. School tomorrow." "It's only 7:30. I wake up early to do chores." Tamsin sat on the edge of the cot. The mattress was thin, barely padded. "What kind of chores?" "Just regular things. Dishes, sweeping, trash. Grandma says children should contribute." "Do you ask her before you eat?" Mireya nodded. "Before you shower?" Another nod. "Before you sit down?" Mireya looked away. "She's teaching me respect." Tamsin felt something crack open inside her. She kept her voice steady. "Can you call me Mom?" "Grandma says titles confuse children. It's better to use names." "I'm your mother." "I know." Mireya's voice was small. "But we're not supposed to get emotional about facts." Tamsin stood slowly. Her legs felt unsteady. "Get some sleep. We'll talk more tomorrow." "Okay." Tamsin climbed the stairs and closed the basement door behind her. Brenda was in the living room, reading a book with reading glasses perched on her nose. "She's settled." Brenda asked without looking up. "Why is she sleeping in the basement?" "She needs her own space." The bedroom was needed for storage. "Storage of what?" "Holiday decorations, seasonal items, things Mireya has outgrown. It's more practical this way." "She's 12 years old. She should have a bedroom." Brenda marked her page and set the book down. "Tamsin, I understand you're feeling guilty. That's natural. But I've been caring for Mireya for 6 years while you pursued your career. I've developed systems that work, routines that provide stability. Your periodic visits cause disruption and set back her progress." "Progress toward what?" "Becoming a responsible, disciplined young woman." Brenda stood. "You can't show up once every few months and expect to understand what's best for her. Parenting requires consistency. It requires presence." "I'm here now." "For how long?" Brenda smiled sadly. "A day? 2? Then you'll leave again, and I'll be left to manage the fallout. It's not fair to Mireya." Tamsin couldn't argue, because Brenda was right. She would leave. She had to. Her job was in Oklahoma City. Her life was there. Coming back here always felt like visiting someone else's present. "I'm going to bed," Tamsin said. "Of course. Let me know if you need anything." Tamsin went to the guest room and closed the door. She sat on the bed and stared at the wall. The house felt wrong. Not just different. Wrong. Like something had been slowly twisted out of shape while she wasn't looking. She thought about Mireya asking permission to eat, to sit, to exist in the house that was supposed to be hers. She thought about the notebook on Mireya's desk, the blank walls, the rehearsed answers. Something was happening here. Something Tamsin had been too absent to see, too guilty to question. She lay down on the narrow bed and stared at the ceiling. Sleep wouldn't come. Outside, the wind moved through bare trees. The house creaked and settled. Somewhere below, Mireya slept alone in a laundry room. Tamsin woke at dawn. The house was still dark. She dressed quietly and went to the kitchen, thinking she would make coffee, maybe start breakfast. But when she opened the refrigerator, she found everything labeled and organized in clear containers. A schedule was taped to the inside of the door. Monday, breakfast 6:30 a.m. Lunch items pre-packed. Dinner prep 4 p.m. Tuesday, Breakfast 6:30 a.m. Lunch items pre-packed. Dinner prep 4 p.m. Every day was identical. Tamsin heard footsteps on the basement stairs. Mireya appeared, already dressed, her hair pulled back. She froze when she saw Tamsin. "Good morning," Tamsin said. "Morning." Mireya moved to the sink and washed her hands, then began pulling items from the refrigerator. "What are you doing?" "Making breakfast." "I can do that." "It's my job." Mireya's voice stayed neutral. "Grandma says everyone has responsibilities." Tamsin watched as her daughter measured oatmeal, added water, set the timer on the microwave. Everything was precise, mechanical. "Did you sleep okay?" Tamsin asked. "Yes. The cot seems uncomfortable." "I'm used to it." "How long have you been sleeping down there?" Mireya hesitated. "A while." "Months? A year?" "I don't know. A while." The microwave beeped. Mireya removed the bowl, added a measured spoonful of brown sugar, and set it on the table. She went back for orange juice, pouring exactly 6 ounces into a glass. Brenda appeared, already dressed and composed. "Good morning. I see Mireya is managing breakfast." "I was going to help," Tamsin said. "She's capable. Independence is important." Brenda sat at the table and waited. Mireya brought her oatmeal and juice without being asked. Tamsin sat down too. "Can I have some?" "Help yourself," Brenda said. "Mireya has her portions calculated." Tamsin went to the kitchen and found the oatmeal container. She made her own bowl and sat back down. They ate in silence. After breakfast, Mireya cleared the table and began washing dishes. Tamsin tried again to help, but Mireya shook her head quickly. "I've got it." "Let me at least try." "No, thank you." The rejection was polite, final. Brenda stood. "Mireya, your backpack is ready. The bus comes in 15 minutes. "Yes, ma'am." Mireya dried her hands, grabbed her backpack from the hall closet, and put on a coat. She stood by the door waiting. "Have a good day at school," Brenda said. "Thank you." Tamsin stood. "Can I drive you?" Mireya looked at Brenda first. "The bus is routine," Brenda said. "Better not to change it. I'd like to spend time with her. Perhaps this weekend." Mireya opened the door and left. Through the window, Tamsin watched her walk down the driveway to the road, where she stood alone, waiting for the bus. "I want to take her somewhere," Tamsin said. "Just the two of us." "She has homework this weekend. And chores. She's 12. She should have free time. Structure provides security. Mireya thrives on it. She looks miserable." Brenda's smile didn't reach her eyes. "You see what you want to see. Guilt makes people irrational." Tamsin felt her jaw tighten. "I need to do laundry. Can you show me where things are?" "Of course." They went to the basement. Brenda showed her the detergent, the settings on the washer, the folding table. Everything was labeled. Everything had a place. "Mireya helps with laundry on Saturdays," Brenda said. "It's part of her routine." After Brenda went back upstairs, Tamsin stood alone in the laundry room. She looked at the cot where her daughter slept, the backpack on the floor, the single blanket folded at the foot of the bed. She knelt beside the cot and found a small notebook tucked between the mattress and the wall. Tamsin pulled it out carefully and opened it. It wasn't a diary. It was a log. Each page was dated. Each day listed chores completed, times recorded, mistakes noted. The handwriting was small and neat, the kind of careful writing that came from being checked and corrected. November 5th. Breakfast dishes done, 6:45 a.m. Forgot to wipe cabinet handles. Will remember tomorrow. November 6th. Breakfast 6:40 a.m. Lunch packed. Remembered handles. Sweeping took too long. Will be faster. November 7th. Breakfast 6:35 a.m. Everything completed on time. Grandma said my tone was wrong when I asked about homework. We'll speak more carefully. Tamsin turned the pages. Weeks of entries. Months. Small mistakes documented and apologized for. Questions that earned corrections. Times she spoke out of turn. At the back of the notebook were letters. Apology letters addressed to Brenda. Practicing how to take responsibility for forgotten tasks, poor attitudes, incorrect responses. Dear Grandma, I apologize for forgetting to check the mail yesterday. I understand this was irresponsible. I will do better. Dear Grandma, I'm sorry for my tone when you corrected me. I know you're trying to help me. I'll be more respectful. Dear Grandma, thank you for reminding me about my chores. I should have remembered on my own. I will try harder. The letters were dated and rewritten. Some crossed out and started over. Some with notes in the margins. Better. Or still sounds defensive. Tamsin closed the notebook and sat back. Her hands were shaking. She took 3 slow breaths. She didn't cry. She couldn't afford to cry. Instead, she pulled out her phone and took pictures of every page. Each entry, each letter, each correction. The evidence was clear and methodical. This wasn't discipline. This wasn't structure. This was control. Tamsin put the notebook back exactly where she found it. She folded the blanket the same way. She checked the floor to make sure she hadn't left marks. Then she went upstairs and started documenting everything else. The school called at 2:15 that afternoon. Brenda answered, her voice calm and efficient. Tamsin stood in the kitchen doorway listening. Yes, this is she. I see. No, that won't be necessary. I'll speak with her. Thank you. Brenda hung up and turned to Tamsin. Mireya left her lunch at home. They wanted to make sure she ate. Did she eat? The cafeteria provided something. She should have called us. She knows not to bother people with small problems. Brenda moved to the refrigerator and pulled out the labeled containers for dinner. Self-sufficiency is important. Tamsin crossed her arms. She's 12. She can ask for help. Asking for help becomes a habit. Dependence creates weakness. Or connection, support, normal childhood things. Brenda began chopping vegetables with practiced efficiency. You parent your way, I'll parent mine. She's not yours to parent. The knife paused. Brenda looked up, her expression pleasant but cold. Then perhaps you should have stayed. The words hung in the air. Tamsin felt the familiar weight of guilt pressing down. 6 years of it. 6 years of leaving, of choosing work over presence, of letting someone else raise her child because it was easier than facing the grief that still lived in this house. But guilt didn't change what was happening now. I'm going to the school, Tamsin said. I'll pick her up. The bus brings her home. Not today. Tamsin grabbed her keys and left before Brenda could argue. Hollow Creek Middle School sat at the edge of town. A single-story brick building with a flag out front and a parking lot half full of cars. Tamsin went to the main office and signed in as a parent. The secretary looked up with practiced friendliness. How can I help you? I'm here to pick up Mireya Rowe. The woman's smile flickered. Oh, Mrs. Harlan usually handles pickup. I'm her mother. Of course. The secretary typed something on her computer. Let me call her classroom. A few minutes later, Mireya appeared in the hallway. She saw Tamsin and stopped. Confusion crossed her face, then worry. Is something wrong? Mireya asked. No, I thought I'd drive you home. The bus. I know, but I'm here now. Tamsin smiled. Come on. They walked to the car in silence. Mireya got in and fastened her seatbelt with mechanical precision. She sat with her backpack on her lap, hands folded on top. How was school? Tamsin asked as they pulled out of the parking lot. Fine. What did you learn? History, math, English. Anything interesting? Not really. Tamsin drove slowly through town, past the small shops and the park by the lake. She remembered bringing Maria here when she was little. They would feed ducks, play on the swings, eat ice cream from the shop on Main Street. That felt like a different lifetime. "Are you hungry?" Tamsin asked. "Dinner is at 6. "I know, but we could get a snack." "Ice cream? That place on Main Street is still open." Mireya hesitated. "Grandma says sugar before dinner ruins appetite. One time won't hurt." "I don't want to break routine." Tamsin pulled over and parked. She turned to face her daughter. "Myri, look at me." The girl lifted her eyes slowly. "I need you to tell me the truth. Are you okay?" "Yes." "Are you happy?" Mireya's face went carefully blank. "I don't understand the question. Do you like living with Grandma? Do you like the rules? The chores? The way things are?" "It's fine." "That's not what I asked." Mireya looked down at her hands. "I'm supposed to be grateful. Grandma takes care of me. She didn't have to." "You're not supposed to be anything. You're my daughter. You're supposed to be loved and safe and allowed to be a kid." "I am safe." "Are you?" Mireya didn't answer. Her fingers twisted together in her lap. Tamsin reached out and gently took her daughter's hand. Mireya flinched but didn't pull away. "I know I haven't been here," Tamsin said quietly. "I know I've messed up, but I'm here now, and I need to know if something's wrong." "Nothing's wrong." "The notebook in your room. The one under your mattress." Mireya went rigid. "You read it." "I did." "It's private." "I know. I'm sorry. But Myri, those entries, those apology letters, that's not normal. Grandma says children need to learn accountability. For forgetting to wipe a handle, for asking question, for having the wrong tone." Mireya pulled her hand back. "She's teaching me to be better." "Better than what?" "Better than someone who forgets, who doesn't try hard enough, who makes people disappointed." The words came out rehearsed, practiced, like they'd been repeated until they became belief. Tamsin felt something cold and sharp settle in her chest. "Did she tell you that you disappoint people?" "She says I have potential, but I need to work harder." "You're 12 years old. You shouldn't have to work this hard just to exist." "I want to make her proud." "What about what makes you happy?" Mireya looked confused. "What does that have to do with anything?" Tamsin wanted to scream. She wanted to grab her daughter and drive away and never come back to this town. But she kept her voice steady. "Everything," she said. "It has everything to do with everything." "Can we go home now? I have homework." Tamsin started the car and drove back to the house. Neither of them spoke. When they arrived, Brenda was in the living room. She looked up as they entered. "You're early," she said. "I picked her up." Tamsin turned to Mireya. "Go do your homework. I'll call you for dinner." Mireya glanced at Brenda. "Go ahead," Brenda said. The girl disappeared upstairs. Tamsin waited until she heard the bedroom door close. "We need to talk," Tamsin said. About what you're doing to my daughter." Brenda set down her book. "I'm raising her, which is more than you've done. You have her sleeping in a laundry room, writing apology letters for minor mistakes, asking permission to eat. I have her learning discipline, responsibility, values you clearly couldn't teach. She's a child. She's almost a teenager. This is when character forms. This is when bad habits become permanent." Brenda stood. "You left her. You chose your job. You chose absence. I stepped in and did what you wouldn't. I sent money. I called. I visited. You visited 12 times in 6 years. 12. Less than twice a year." Brenda's voice stayed calm, which somehow made it worse. "You weren't her mother. You were a stranger who showed up occasionally with guilt and gifts." Tamsin felt the accusation land because it was true. She had become that person. She had let herself become that person because the alternative meant staying in this house, in this town, drowning in memories of Elliot and everything she'd lost. "I'm staying," Tamsin said. "For how long?" "As long as it takes." "To do what?" "To fix this." Brenda smiled. "There's nothing to fix. There's just a child who needs consistency and a mother who can't provide it." Tamsin left the room before she said something she'd regret. She went upstairs and knocked on Mireya's bedroom door. "Come in." Mireya sat at her desk, textbook open, notebook out, everything arranged with careful precision. "Can I sit with you?" Tamsin asked. "If you want." Tamsin sat on the bed. "What are you working on?" "History. Chapter 6. Need help?" "I'm fine." They sat in silence. Mireya wrote notes, turned pages, checked her answers. She worked with mechanical efficiency. No wasted movement, no pause to think or wonder. Just tasks being completed. After 20 minutes, she closed the textbook and stacked it with her notebook. Edges aligned perfectly. "Done?" Tamsin asked. "Yes." "What do you do now?" "Free time until dinner." "What does that mean?" Mireya shrugged. "Reading, or studying ahead." "Do you have friends? Do they come over?" "Sometimes." "When was the last time?" Mireya thought. "I don't remember. A while." "Do you go to their houses?" "Grandma says it's better to stay home. People's houses have different rules, and it's confusing." Tamsin felt the cold weight in her chest grow heavier. "Do you want to go somewhere this weekend? Just you and me." "I have chores." "We can do them another time." Mireya looked uncomfortable. "Grandma says routines." "I know what Grandma says. I'm asking what you want." "I don't want to make things harder." "For who?" "For everyone." Tamsin moved to sit beside her daughter. "Myri, listen to me. You're allowed to want things. You're allowed to have opinions. You're allowed to take up space and be loud and make mistakes. That's what being a kid is. Grandma says children who take up too much space become selfish adults. That's not true." "How do you know?" The question was genuine. Mireya looked at her with serious eyes, waiting for an answer that made sense in the world she'd been living in. "Because I was a kid once too," Tamsin said. "And I made mistakes, and I asked questions, and I wanted things. And I turned out okay." "Did you?" The question hit harder than Mireya probably meant it to. Tamsin thought about the life she'd built, the job she'd chosen, the distance she'd created, the daughter she'd left behind. "I'm trying to," she said quietly. Mireya nodded slowly. She looked like she wanted to say something, but the words wouldn't come. Downstairs, Brenda called for dinner. "Come on," Tamsin said. "Let's eat." That night, Tamsin couldn't sleep. She lay in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, listening to the house settle. Around midnight, she got up and went to the kitchen for water. The light was on in the basement. Tamsin opened the door quietly and descended the stairs. She found Mireya sitting on her cot, notebook open, writing by the dim light of a small lamp. "What are you doing?" Tamsin asked softly. Mireya jumped. She tried to close the notebook, but Tamsin had already seen it. "I couldn't sleep," Mireya said. "So you're doing your log." "I forgot to record something from today." Tamsin sat on the floor beside the cot. "What did you forget?" "That I left my lunch at home. I need to write it down." "Why?" "So I remember not to do it again. People forget things. It's normal. Grandma says mistakes that aren't documented get repeated." Tamsin took a breath. "Can I see what you've written?" Mireya hesitated, then handed over the notebook. Today's entry read, November 14th, forgot lunch. Caused school to call home. Created disruption. Must check bag night before. Apology letter needed. Below it, Mireya had started writing. "Dear Grandma, I apologize for forgetting my lunch today. I understand this created inconvenience and showed poor planning. I will be more careful. Thank you for your patience with me. Tamsin closed the notebook. You don't have to write this. Yes, I do. Says who? Grandma. She checks the notebook every week. She makes you show it to her? Mireya nodded. And if you don't write apologies? She says I'm not taking responsibility. Tamsin handed the notebook back. What if you stopped? Stopped what? The log. The apologies. All of it. Fear flickered across Mireya's face. I can't. Why not? Because then she'd be disappointed. Would that be so bad? Mireya looked at her like she'd suggested jumping off a bridge. Yes, it would be terrible. Myri, you're allowed to disappoint people. You're allowed to make mistakes without documenting them. You're allowed to be imperfect. No, I'm not. The words came out fierce. You don't understand. You're not here. You don't see what happens when things go wrong. What happens? Mireya looked away. Nothing. I'm just tired. I should sleep. Tell me. There's nothing to tell. Grandma she gets quiet. And then she doesn't talk to me for a while. And then everything feels wrong until I apologize correctly and do better. That's manipulation. That's consequences. Tamsin felt her chest tighten. That's emotional abuse. Mireya flinched. Don't say that. It's true. She's family. Family doesn't. Mireya stopped. People say that about family when they want to excuse things. Tamsin stood slowly. Tomorrow, you and I are going somewhere. Just us. No grandma. No routines. Just us. I can't. Yes, you can. And you will. She won't let me. I'm your mother. I don't need her permission. Mireya looked terrified. Please don't make this harder. I'm not making it harder. I'm making it stop. Tamsin left before Mireya could argue. She went back upstairs and lay in bed, her mind racing. She needed proof. Real proof. Not just a notebook and a daughter who'd been taught to accept control as love. She needed to see what Hollow Creek had been told. What story Brenda had built to explain Tamsin's absence. To justify her authority. To make everyone complicit in this quiet imprisonment. The next morning, Tamsin went to Mireya's school. She signed in at the office and asked to speak with the principal. The secretary looked uncomfortable. Is there a problem? No problem. Just want to introduce myself. I'm Mireya Rose's mother. Oh. The woman's expression shifted. I'll see if Mr. Fletcher is available. 10 minutes later, Tamsin sat in a small office across from a tired-looking man in his 50s. He smiled politely, but his body language was cautious. Mrs. Rowe, what can I do for you? I wanted to check in about Mireya. See how she's doing academically, socially. She's an excellent student, very responsible, very quiet. Does she have friends? I'm not sure. You might want to ask Mrs. Harlan. She usually handles these meetings. Mrs. Harlan is my mother-in-law. I'm Mireya's mother. Of course. It's just, Mrs. Harlan has been the primary contact for several years now. Because I work out of state. Right. He nodded slowly. She explained the situation. Said you'd made the difficult choice to prioritize your career. We all understood. Tamsin kept her voice neutral. What else did she explain? Just that Mireya needed stability, routine, that you visited when you could, but that consistency was important for her development. Did Mireya ever seem unhappy? Not unhappy, just quiet, reserved, but some children are like that. Has she ever asked for help? Mentioned problems at home? Fletcher hesitated. Not that I recall. She's very self-sufficient. Too self-sufficient. I'm not sure what you mean. For a 12-year-old, does it seem strange that she never asks for help? Never mentions friends or family? Mrs. Rowe, I appreciate your concern, but Maria seems well adjusted. If there were serious issues, we'd have noticed. Tamsin stood. Thank you for your time. She left the school with a clearer picture. Brenda had spent years building a narrative. The absent mother who chose work. The selfless grandmother who stepped in. The quiet, well-behaved child who never caused trouble. Everyone in Hollow Creek had accepted the story because it was easier than questioning it. Next, Tamsin went to the county courthouse. She filled out requests for public records, school registration forms, medical authorizations, anything with Maria's name. The clerk processed the requests and said they'd be ready in 2 days. Can you expedite? Tamsin asked, for an additional fee. Fine. She paid and left. By the time she returned to the house, it was afternoon. Brenda's car was gone. A note on the kitchen table read, "Grocery shopping. Back at 4. Tamsin went to the basement and carefully searched through boxes labeled storage. She found old toys, outgrown clothes, school papers from years ago. Then she found a folder labeled important documents. Inside were copies of forms Maria's school sent home. Emergency contact forms listing Brenda as primary guardian. Medical forms with Brenda's signature. Permission slips signed by Brenda. Tamsin photographed everything. Then she found bank statements, an account in Maria's name, deposits labeled survivor benefits, withdrawals that didn't match anything Tamsin recognized, regular transfers to another account, more photos. At the bottom of the folder was a printed email. Brenda had written to someone at Social Security claiming she needed to update contact information for Maria's survivor benefits because the mother is frequently unavailable due to work commitments. Tamsin sat back on the floor. Her hands were shaking. Brenda hadn't just taken over Maria's life. She'd taken over her identity, filed paperwork without permission, claimed authority she didn't have, and received benefits meant for Maria. That wasn't family helping family. That was fraud. Tamsin put everything back exactly as she found it. She went upstairs and called the one person she trusted. Her lawyer answered on the second ring. Ellen K. Ellen, it's Tamsin Rowe. Tamsin. Long time. What's going on? I need help. I think my mother-in-law has been committing fraud using my daughter. Tell me everything. Tamsin did. The whole story. The notebook, the control, the documents, the benefits. Ellen listened without interrupting. When Tamsin finished, Ellen was quiet for a moment. This is serious, she finally said. If she's been receiving federal benefits by falsely claiming guardianship, that's a federal crime. Wire fraud. Potentially identity theft if she forged your signatures. What do I do? Document everything. Don't confront her. Don't tip her off. Get copies of bank statements, benefit letters, anything that shows the money trail. Then we file for emergency custody and report the fraud to the appropriate authorities. How long will that take? For emergency custody? A few days if we can show immediate harm. For the criminal investigation? Months, maybe longer. I can't leave Maria here that long. You might not have to. If we can prove she's in an emotionally abusive situation, the court will remove her immediately. But we need evidence. Strong evidence. I have photos of documents. A notebook showing psychological manipulation. What else? Testimony from Maria if she's willing. Testimony from anyone who's witnessed the behavior. Medical records if there's been unexplained injuries or neglect. There hasn't been physical abuse. Emotional abuse is still abuse. The court takes it seriously. Okay. Tamsin felt something hard settle in her chest. Let's do it. I'll start drafting the paperwork. Send me everything you have. And Tamsin, be careful. If she realizes what you're doing, she might escalate. They hung up. Tamsin sat in the guest room and transferred all the photos to her laptop. She wrote down everything she'd observed. times, dates, conversations. She documented Maria's behavior, the missing photos, the sleeping arrangement, the controlled environment. When she finished, she had 18 pages of notes and 57 photographs. It was almost 4. Brenda would be home soon. Tamsin went downstairs and started preparing dinner. When Brenda arrived, she found Tamsin in the kitchen, chopping vegetables. "You're cooking." Brenda set grocery bags on the counter. "Thought I'd help." "Mireya has her meal plan. I need to follow it." "I'm making something simple. Pasta." She's not used to changes in diet. "It's pasta, Brenda. She'll survive." They worked in tense silence. When Mireya came home, she looked surprised to see both of them in the kitchen. "Sit," Tamsin said. "Dinner's almost ready." They ate pasta at the table. Mireya kept glancing between Tamsin and Brenda, sensing the tension. "How was school?" Tamsin asked. "Good." "What did you learn?" "Math. English." "Anything interesting?" "Not really." Brenda interrupted. "Mireya, you have vocabulary homework." "I finished it." "Then you should review." "I know the words." Review builds retention. Mireya stood automatically. Tamsin put a hand on her arm. "Sit. Finish eating." "She's done," Brenda said. "I'd like her to stay." They stared at each other across the table. Mireya sat back down slowly, her face pale. "Tomorrow," Tamsin said, "you and I are going out. Just us." "I have chores," Brenda started. "I don't care." Disrupting routine is harmful. What's harmful is keeping a 12-year-old isolated in a house with no friends, no freedom, and no childhood. Brenda's face went cold. "You have no idea what you're talking about." "I know what I see." "You see guilt. You see your own failures reflected back. You want to blame me because it's easier than admitting you abandoned her." Tamsin stood. "I'm taking her tomorrow. That's final." She left the table and went to the guest room. Her hands were shaking. She sat on the bed and forced herself to breathe slowly. A soft knock came at the door. "Come in." Mireya slipped inside and closed the door behind her. She looked terrified. "Please don't fight with her," she whispered. "I'm not fighting. I'm setting boundaries." "She'll be upset." "That's not your responsibility." "Yes, it is. If she's upset, everything gets worse." "How does it get worse?" Mireya looked at the floor. She just stops talking, stops helping, stops everything. And then I have to fix it. By apologizing, by being better. Tamsin pulled her daughter into a hug. Mireya stood stiff at first, then slowly relaxed. "You don't have to be better," Tamsin whispered. "You're already enough." Mireya started crying. Quiet, careful tears that she tried to hide. They stood there for a long time. The next morning, Tamsin woke Mireya before dawn. "Get dressed," she whispered. "We're leaving." "Where?" "Somewhere safe. Just for a while." Mireya's eyes went wide. "We can't." "Yes, we can. Pack a bag. Not much. Just what you need for a few days." "Grandma will." "I'll handle Grandma. Go." Mireya moved quickly, quietly. Tamsin went to her own room and packed her essentials. She wrote a note for Brenda, took Mireya for the weekend. "We'll call later." They were in the car by 6. Tamsin drove out of Hollow Creek as the sun rose, turning the sky pink and orange. Mireya sat in the passenger seat, silent and tense. "Where are we going?" she finally asked. "A motel near the state line. Just for a few days while I figure things out." "Figure what out?" "How to make things right." They drove for 2 hours. Tamsin found a modest motel outside a small town, the kind of place that didn't ask questions. She paid cash for 3 nights and led Mireya to their room. It was simple. 2 beds, a TV, a bathroom. Nothing special. Mireya set her bag on the bed and looked around nervously. "Are we allowed to be here?" she asked. "Yes, we are allowed." "Grandma will call." I'll deal with it. Maria sat on the edge of the bed. What happens next? I talk to a lawyer. I file for custody. I make sure you're safe. Safe from what? From a situation that isn't healthy. She takes care of me. Control isn't care. Maria looked down. People will say, you kidnapped me. You're my daughter. I can't kidnap you. Grandma will say, I'm in danger. You're not. How do you know? Tamsin knelt in front of her. Because I'm your mother, and I'm here now, and I'm not leaving again. Maria searched her face. You promise? I promise. The first call came 30 minutes later. Brenda's name on the screen. Tamsin let it ring. A voicemail followed. Tamsin, where are you? Maria isn't here. Call me immediately. The second call came 10 minutes later. Then a third. Finally, Tamsin answered. Where is she? Brenda demanded. With me. Safe. Bring her home. No. You can't do this. Yes, I can. I'm her mother. You're emotionally unstable. This is kidnapping. This is parenting. Something you've been doing without my permission for 6 years. I raised her while you ran away. You controlled her. There's a difference. Bring her back, or I'll call the police. Go ahead. I'll tell them about the survivor benefits you've been cashing, the forms you falsified, the guardianship you claimed without authority. Silence on the other end. You're making a mistake, Brenda said finally. No, I'm fixing one. Tamsin hung up. She turned to Maria, who sat on the bed with wide eyes. She'll be mad, Maria whispered. Let her be mad. What if she calls the police? Then I explain everything, and they'll investigate, and they'll find what I found. What did you find? Evidence that she's been stealing from you, manipulating you, controlling you in ways that aren't legal or healthy. Maria looked confused. The money. Your survivor benefits. They're supposed to go toward your care, but she's been using them for herself. How do you know? Bank statements, transfers, documentation. Tamsin sat beside her. That's fraud, Myri. That's a crime. But she's family. That doesn't make it okay. What happens to her? I don't know yet, but what happens to you is more important. Maria pulled her knees to her chest. I'm scared. I know. So am I. They spent the day in the motel room. Tamsin called Ellen and updated her. Ellen said she'd expedite the custody filing and report the fraud to federal authorities. This could get complicated, Ellen warned. Brenda might fight back. She might make accusations. Let her, Tamsin said. I have evidence. Good. Keep it safe. And keep Maria calm. She might be called to testify. Tamsin hung up and turned to her daughter, who was watching TV with distant eyes. You okay? No. Talk to me. I don't know how. Maria's voice cracked. I don't know how to do this. How to be without rules. How to just exist. You just do. One moment at a time. But what if I do it wrong? There's no wrong way to be yourself. Grandma said. Grandma was wrong. Tamsin moved closer. Listen to me. Everything she told you about being too much, needing to earn love, having to be perfect, all of it was wrong. You're allowed to be messy. You're allowed to be loud. You're allowed to take up space. Maria started crying. Real tears this time, not the careful ones she'd learned to hide. I don't know how to stop being what she made me. Then we'll figure it out together. They sat on the bed and Tamsin held her daughter while she cried 6 years of suppressed emotion. When Maria finally quieted, she looked exhausted. Can I ask you something? Maria whispered. Anything. Why did you leave? The question was inevitable. Tamsin had been avoiding it since she arrived. Because your dad died and I didn't know how to handle it. Because everything reminded me of him. Because staying in that house felt like drowning. because running felt easier than facing what I'd lost. Did you think about me? Every day. Then why didn't you come back? I thought you were better off without me. I thought Grandma could give you stability I couldn't. I thought wrong. Do you wish you stayed? More than anything. They were quiet for a while. Do you think about Dad? Mireya asked. All the time. Grandma took all his pictures, said they made me sad. Did they? No, they made me remember. That's different. Tamsin felt something crack open inside her. You're right. That's very different. Can we get them back? Eventually, when we go back for your things. What if we don't go back? We have to, but only to get what's yours. We're not staying. Where will we go? I'm not sure yet, but wherever it is, we'll go together. Mireya nodded slowly. Okay. 2 days later, the paperwork came through. Ellen called with news. Judge granted emergency, temporary custody. You have full legal authority over Mireya, pending a full hearing. And the federal investigation into the fraud has been initiated. They'll want to interview both of you. When? Soon. Next week, probably. Are you ready? Yes. And Mireya? I'll prepare her. They drove back to Hollow Creek the next morning. Tamsin parked outside the house but didn't get out immediately. What if she won't let us in? Mireya asked. She doesn't have a choice. I have legal custody now. What if she yells? Then she yells. But we're getting your things and leaving. They walked up to the house. The door was unlocked. Inside, Brenda sat in the living room, calm as ever. You came back, she said, for Mireya's things. She lives here. Not anymore. Tamsin handed Brenda the court order. Brenda read it slowly, her expression unchanged. You did this, she said quietly. You gave me no choice. I raised her. I loved her. You controlled her. That's not love. Everything I did was for her benefit. No, everything you did was for your benefit. The money, the authority, the power. Brenda's face hardened. You're making a terrible mistake. The mistake was leaving her with you. Tamsin went upstairs with Mireya. They packed clothes, books, personal items, everything that belonged to her. When they came back down, Brenda was on the phone. Yes, I need to file for emergency custody, she was saying. Tamsin kept walking. They loaded the car. When they finished, Tamsin went back inside one last time. Don't bother with the custody filing, she said. I have temporary custody already, and the fraud investigation is underway. You'll be hearing from federal agents soon. Brenda hung up slowly. For the first time, her composure cracked. You turned me in. I reported a crime. That's all. I'm family. Family doesn't steal. Family doesn't manipulate. Family doesn't turn a child into a servant. I gave her structure. You gave her trauma. Brenda stood. I could have left. I could have refused to help. But I stayed. I sacrificed. You stayed because it gave you control. And now that control is gone. Tamsin left without waiting for a response. She got in the car where Mireya waited and drove away from the house. In the rearview mirror, she saw Brenda standing on the porch, watching them leave. They didn't go far, just to a rental house on the other side of town. Tamsin had arranged it through Ellen. Small but clean. 2 bedrooms. A yard. This is ours. Mireya asked. For now, until we figure out what's next. They unpacked slowly. Mireya moved through the rooms, like she was waiting for someone to tell her what to do. You can put things wherever you want, Tamsin said. Your room is yours. Mireya stared at the empty bedroom. I don't know where things go. Then we'll figure it out together. They spent the afternoon arranging furniture, hanging clothes, making the space feel like theirs. When they finished, Mireya sat on her new bed and looked around. It's so quiet, she said. Is that bad? No, just different. That night they ordered pizza. Mireya asked if it was okay. You don't have to ask permission anymore, Tamsin said. What if I do it wrong? There's no wrong way to eat pizza. They sat on the floor and ate from the box. No plates, no rules. Mireya laughed when sauce dripped on her shirt. Grandma would have made me change immediately, she said. Well, Grandma's not here. Do you think she's mad? Probably. Do you care? Not even a little. Mireya smiled. It was small, but it was real. The federal agents came 3 days later. 2 of them professional and polite. They interviewed Tamsin first, then Mireya. Tamsin waited outside while they talked to her daughter. When Mireya emerged, she looked tired. How did it go? Tamsin asked. They asked about the money, about Grandma, about everything. What did you tell them? The truth. That was the right thing to do. The agents asked to speak with Tamsin again before they left. We have enough to move forward, one of them said. The bank records alone are substantial. Combined with the falsified documents and your daughter's testimony, this is a strong case. What happens now? We continue investigating, gather more evidence, build the case. Then we recommend charges to the U.S. Attorney's Office. How long? Weeks, maybe months. These things take time. And Mireya? She's safe with you. The court order stands. They left. Tamsin closed the door and leaned against it. Is it over? Mireya asked. Not yet, but we're getting there. 2 weeks later, Brenda was arrested. Tamsin got the call from Ellen in the afternoon. Federal agents executed a warrant this morning. Wire fraud, identity misuse, financial exploitation of a minor. She's been taken into custody. What does that mean? She'll be arraigned. They'll set bail, but the evidence is strong. She's facing significant time. Tamsin felt something settle in her chest. Not satisfaction, not relief, just certainty. Thank you, she said. The custody hearing is next week. It's a formality at this point. You'll be granted full permanent custody. Good. Tamsin hung up and turned to Mireya, who was doing homework at the kitchen table. That was Ellen, Tamsin said. Grandma was arrested today. Mireya's pencil stopped moving. For the money? Yes. And the other things. What happens to her? There will be a trial. She might go to prison. For how long? I don't know. Years, probably. Mireya set down her pencil. Do I have to feel bad? No. You don't have to feel anything you don't want to feel. Grandma always said I should forgive people. Forgiveness is optional. It's not required. People will think I'm mean. People don't matter. What matters is that you're safe now, that you can be yourself, that you don't have to apologize for existing. Mireya nodded slowly. Okay. That night, they sat on the porch and watched the sun set. The air was cool. Fall was turning to winter. The trees were bare. Do I have to forgive her? Mireya asked quietly. No, you don't owe anyone that. What if people say I should? Then they're wrong. Forgiveness is personal. It's not a debt. You give it if you want to when you're ready. And if you're never ready, that's okay too. Mireya pulled her knees to her chest. I don't think I'll ever be ready. That's your right. They sat in silence for a while. Thank you for coming back, Mireya said. Thank you for giving me the chance. Are you staying this time? Yes. For real? For real. Mireya leaned against her. Tamsin put an arm around her daughter, and they watched the sky turn dark. The custody hearing took 15 minutes. The judge reviewed the evidence, read the reports, listened to Ellen's presentation. Brenda's lawyer tried to argue she'd acted out of care, not malice, but the judge cut him off. This court finds clear evidence of financial exploitation, emotional manipulation, and fraudulent acquisition of benefits. Mrs. Harlan's actions constitute abuse regardless of claimed intent. Full permanent custody is granted to Tamsin Rowe. The gavel came down. It was over. Tamsin and Maria left the courthouse together. People stared. Hollow Creek was small enough that everyone knew by now. The story had spread. The arrest, the charges, the custody battle. Some people looked sympathetic. Others looked judgmental. Tamsin didn't care. They drove home to their rental house. Inside, Maria had decorated her room with posters and pictures. Her homework was scattered on her desk. Her clothes were thrown on a chair. It looked like a kid's room. It looked like life. "What do you want for dinner?" Tamsin asked. "I don't know. What do you think?" "I think you should decide." Maria thought for a moment. "Tacos." "Tacos it is." They made dinner together. They laughed when shells broke. They didn't worry about mess. They ate at the table and talked about nothing important. After dinner, Maria did homework while Tamsin cleaned up. When she finished, Maria came to the kitchen. "Can I ask you something?" "Always." "Do you think I'll ever feel normal again?" "What's normal?" "I don't know. Not this." She gestured vaguely. "Not always waiting for things to go wrong. It takes time, but yes, eventually, you'll feel safe enough to stop waiting." "How long?" "I don't know. Everyone's different." Maria nodded. "Okay. But I'll be here the whole time, however long it takes." "Promise." "Promise." Months passed. The criminal trial moved forward. Brenda pleaded not guilty. Her lawyer claimed she'd acted in good faith, that the money had been used for Maria's benefit, that Tamsin's absence proved she was the better guardian. The prosecution presented bank statements showing luxury purchases, vacations, personal expenses, nothing that benefited Maria. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Brenda was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison. When Tamsin heard the verdict, she felt nothing. No victory, no vindication, just the quiet certainty that it was finished. She told Maria that evening. She'll be in prison for 4 years. Maria didn't react at first. Then she nodded. "Okay. Do you want to talk about it?" "Not really." "That's fine." They sat on the porch. The air was warm now. Spring had arrived. The trees had leaves again. "Someone said I should visit her," Maria said, "that she's still family." "Do you want to?" "No." "Then don't." They said I'd regret it, that I'd feel guilty later. Maybe. Maybe not. But that's your choice to make, not theirs. Maria was quiet. "I don't think I'll regret it." "Then trust that." "People say I'm being too harsh." "People say a lot of things. Most of it doesn't matter." "What does matter?" "That you're safe, that you're healing, that you're becoming whoever you want to be." Maria leaned back. "I like who I'm becoming." "Me too." Time kept moving. Summer came. Tamsin found a new job locally. Better hours. Less travel. She was home for dinner every night. Home for breakfast. Home when Maria needed her. Maria made friends. She joined a soccer team. She laughed more. She stopped asking permission before speaking. One evening, they were cleaning up after dinner when Maria paused. "I threw away the notebook," she said. "The compliance log." "Yeah, I don't need it anymore." Tamsin smiled. "Good." It felt wrong at first, like I was erasing something important. It wasn't important. It was just evidence of something that shouldn't have happened. I know that now. They finished cleaning. Maria went to her room to do homework. Tamsin sat on the porch and watched the sky fade from blue to purple. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. "This is a call from Brenda Harlan at Federal Correctional Institution." Tamsin hung up. The phone rang again. Same number. She declined the call. Then she blocked it. Inside, Maria was singing along to music from her room. Off key. Happy. Tamsin listened and smiled. Some people said she'd gone too far. That family should forgive. That Brenda had made mistakes, but meant well. That prison was excessive. Tamsin never argued. She never defended her choices. She never tried to make people understand. She didn't come back to be understood. She came back to end it. And this time it stayed ended.